Hey folks, welcome back. Well, it's that time of year again where Free League has their 50% off summer sale. So naturally, I blew a bunch of money on some new stuff from Free League. And as you can see in front of us, we've got Dragonbane, the box set, and the Twilight 2000 box set. And hidden underneath there is the Urban Operations expansion as well. So today I'm just going to give you a quick overview of what's in these boxes. If you do find that one of these games, or both of them, in fact, catches your attention, you want to hear more, then of course I'm happy to do a deep dive into one or both or all of them, whatever you want. But for right now, I'm just going to take a look at what you get inside, give you a brief overview of the rules, what they're like, look at all the cool stuff that Free League puts in the boxes, see if that helps you make any buying decisions if you're thinking about looking at these games in the future. But I've got to say, first of all, both of these look like starter sets, but they are most definitely not. So both Dragonbane and Twilight 2000 are complete games in one box. You got everything you need. You have a Game Master's Guide, you've got loads of adventures, you've got maps and dice, you got everything you need to get these directly to the table and keep on going. It's not just about a starter intro scenario like the Tales from the Loop starter set or anything like that. These are full-on games in a box, which is great. So what they've done with Dragonbane is they've released the rulebook and a new bestiary as well as hardcover volumes. So if you want to get copies of those that'll last longer than the soft covers that are in here, you can do that. I hope to do the same for Twilight 2K at some point, but we'll see. They are coming out with some new expansions for Twilight 2K quite soon. A campaign, I think, called the Black Madonna, and another one called Hostile Waters, which is about, as you might expect, using boats and blowing up stuff in the sea. So that should be cool. Now, these are very different in vibes. So Dragonbane, as you can see, it says Mirth and Mayhem role-playing, and it's very much what it's about. It's kind of like Beer and Pretzel's version of D&D, heavily inspired by BRP, the basic role-playing system, as you will see in Call of Cthulhu, and in more advanced form in Runequest and other things. Twilight 2K, on the other hand, is based on the House Year Zero system, but in a different variant than what I've shown before on the channel. I don't think we've looked at Blade Runner before. The step dice variant of the Year Zero system, instead of using pools of d6s, as you get better in skill, instead of adding more dice to your pool, you increase the size of the dice. So from a d6 to a d8 to a d10 to a d12. Anything above 6 is a success, and anything above 10 is 2 successes. That kind of changes the dynamics up. It works really well. Some people prefer the step dice one because, first of all, you need less dice. Second of all, you tend to get sort of more consistent baseline results. In any case, enough of the preamble, we'll dive right in. So we'll look first at Dragonbane. Now, this is unusual for Free League in a couple of ways. First of all, because we're kind of occupying a Dungeons and Dragons type space here, which is not their typical output. Secondly, this is a revival of an old school system called Dragons and Demons. It's been renamed Dragonbane. It was originally a port of the Magic World setting for BRP, basically. And then they changed it to a variant of BRP where instead of D100s, you use D20s. So it's kind of like taking a D100 system and dividing everything by 5. And as we can see on the back of the box here, so you got fantastic artwork as usual. Got a cool, roguish duck person leaping from the ceiling towards you. Dragonbane is a classic fantasy tabletop role-playing game full of magic, mystery, and adventure. It's designed from the ground up to facilitate fast and furious play, with very little prep time and adventures that are a breeze to run. It's a game with room for laughs at the table while still offering brutal challenges for the adventures. And then there's a list of cool stuff, which you can see a preview of here. It's got standees, cards, dice. Once again, full game in a box, everything you need to get started. I would recommend the Bestiary, I think, as a secondary add-on. I am looking to get that in another purchase in the future, but I'll explain why as we get into it a little bit. So as you can see, I've already opened this stuff. This is not an unboxing as such. I've already unboxed everything, so you wouldn't have to hear the crinkling of plastic as I open everything, and also so I'd know a little bit what I was talking about, because Dragonbane is not the Year Zero engine. So I can see right off the bat we have some plastic bits here that you can use to hold up your standees, which we'll see later on. We've got the usual Free League games catalog, just to tempt you into buying more stuff. Walking Dead, Alien, Vaesen, Mutant Year Zero, Forbidden Lands, which will be the topic of my next video, by the way. Morkborg, all that great stuff that they make. Then we've got the dice set, which is very unusually for Free League, is standard polyhedrals, basically. The only difference is, if we pop these open, first of all, they got a lovely translucent green color to them. So we got the D20s here. Comes with 2 of them, and you can see the 20, which is bad in this system, is a demon with horns that are in the shape of the number 20, which is pretty clever. So if you roll that, bad things happen. It's called rolling a demon. On the other side, you have the 1, which is the lowest possible roll and is the greatest possible roll in this system. And then you roll a dragon. And when you roll a dragon, good things happen. You can see they've got this lovely translucent emerald green, as I said. And you get the full set of polyhedrals. There are 4 D6s, which is handy, plus a D10, D8, D12, and D4. So everything you would expect, but there's more D6s. Nice set of dice. Once again, you can sort of open the box, get right to playing. Then we got 2 sets of cards. So we have, let's see the backs here. So we have treasure tables, we have adventure cards, more treasure, lots of treasure, and lots more treasure. So it's very much a classic find an adventuring site, kill some stuff, get some loot, level up, do cool stuff game, which is great. So we got different values of treasure you can hand out. We got gold coins, varying values, up to a 2d6 times 10, chalice, silver bracelet. All of these have different values in the game's currency, which is copper, silver, and gold coins. We got gemstones. You can roll d6s for some of these items, as you can see, to get different results. Bits of clothing. We've got weapons you can find, range weapons, master crafted weapons. Very nice. Armor and shields, poison dagger, rusty nail, not the most effective weapon. Grimoire gives you some spells potentially in a different school of magic. There are several schools of magic in the game. You have a bottle with a mysterious potion. It could kill you, might make you fall asleep, or it could heal you. Who knows? Roll a die and find out. We get instruments, trade goods, rat, which is not good. And we have some adventure rumors that you can pick up about different adventuring sites, which is pretty cool. And then some more treasure. Now the other deck of cards. Now one thing we do have that is traditionally Free League in this rule set is we have the initiative cards. So you have cards from 1 to 10. Players and the GM will draw cards to determine where they fall in the order. Some monsters have what's called a ferocity rating. The number of the ferocity rating equals the number of attacks they do per round. So if you have a dragon with ferocity 3, then the GM would draw 3 cards for that creature, and it would have 3 different times it could act during the round. You can exchange cards with people or monsters during certain circumstances or using certain skills. Then we have something I really like here. So we have more treasure, of course. But then we have improvised weapons, and these are awesome. So depending on what environment your players are in, you can chuck possible improvised weapons down on the table or something, and your players can decide, oh, I'm going to throw this boiling cauldron on somebody, and this will tell you what it does. Or you can throw a bucket of soapy water to knock people down, burning firewood to do fire damage, rummaging pig, getting a pig to attack somebody and then storm off, chucking wine bottles at people, swinging on chandeliers, hitting people with torches, stalagmites, tripping the enemy into a puddle, chucking them down a crevice, send bats after people, low branches, wasp nests, that's pretty tough. Gnarled roots for tripping over, boulders you can chuck at people, vipers, patches of dirt, and then we got some more lower end treasure here, copper coins, silver coins, and then we get to the gold coins that continue on in the other deck. So lots of cards already. I think there's 110 in total. Really nice quality, good feel to them. Then we have our intro page here, which just tells you how to get started. So you decide who's going to be the GM, create a character, or pick one of the pre-gens included in the box, read the rulebook, and read the intro and opening scene in the adventure book, and then get started. And that's it. That's all you really need to know to get started on the game. And then we have our big fat rules book. I kind of wish these guys had that little fancy ribbon you get in the Traveler box set, where it sort of helps you pull the books out, but that would be asking for even more cool stuff from what is already an amazing value, even at full price. So this is the rule book here. You can see it's reasonably thick, but not overwhelmingly so. These are complete game rules in 128 pages. So again, it's designed to be sort of beer and pretzels role-playing. Starts off with character creation, so you choose your kin, which is like your species, profession, which is like your class, your various attributes, derived ratings, skills, encumbrance, etc. It tells you how to use your skills. Then we get into combat, ranged and melee, magic, gear, there's a small bestiary, and then how to run adventures. And that's pretty much it. It's really compact. And there's an intro to the game world, which I'll leave to your local friendly GM to introduce you to. And an intro to what role-playing games are, which I presume you know by now. Attributes in this game, we have strength, constitution, agility, intelligence, willpower, and charisma. You also have hit points, HP, and willpower points, WP. Willpower points are used to power your special abilities and your spells, if you're a mage, for example. And sidebars that are in green here describe optional rules, but they're usually pretty awesome, so I recommend using them. They also talk about how time is measured, so a round of combat is about 10 seconds, or you can take a round rest if you need to catch your breath in battle. You can get a stretch rest for 15 minutes, and you can also explore a room in that time. So we're back to like old school D&D where you have dungeon turns, if you can imagine, where you explore for a certain amount of time. Things can happen during that time. Then you have a shift, which is 6 hours, that allows you to hike for 15 kilometers or take a shift rest, which is the equivalent of a long rest. Now we get into your player characters. Got some awesome kind of iconic characters here. There's a 13-step process. Roll your kin, choose your ability, choose your profession, choose your age, name, roll your attributes, calculate your derived ratings, choose your trained skills, note your heroic heroic ability. Choose or roll your weakness, choose or roll your gear, choose or roll your memento, and choose or roll your appearance. Now, kin, we have 6 kinds. We have humans, halflings, which are, the usual hobbit-likes, dwarves, elves, mallards, which are the duck guys, and wolfkin. And each kin, including humans, has an innate ability that nobody else has. Mallards actually have 2, as you'll see. Usually they require willpower points to use, so just be aware of that. Everybody can speak the common tongue, but non-human kin have their own languages as well, which they can use to speak to their own kind. If you're not of that kin, you want to learn a language, then you need to use the languages skill. So we've got humans. They have the ability to be adaptive, so when rolling for a skill, you can choose to make the roll using another skill of your choice. You have to justify it, but the GM should be flexible. You've got the halflings. Their ability is hard to catch, so you spend 3 willpower points, and then you get a boon to the evade roll, which is essentially advantage stroke disadvantage, which people think was invented by D&D, but it was not. It was invented by Feng Shui in 1989, and it was printed in Call of Cthulhu 7e before it was printed in 2014 in D&D 5e. So know your history, people. That's all I'm saying. Then we got dwarves. They have the ability Unforgiving. Willpower points cost is 3. So if you attack somebody who harmed you in the past for at least 1 point of damage, you get a boon to the roll. Advise you to write down the names of people who have harmed you, so you have a grudge book. Very classic dwarven trope. I love that. We got the elves. They have the ability of inner peace. So during a stretch rest, they can meditate deeply to regain an additional D6 HP and D6 extra WP and recover from an additional condition. They're completely unresponsive during the meditation and cannot be awakened. Then we have a very grumpy looking duck. That's the mallard kin. So he's got 2 abilities. Willpower points 3 is ill-tempered. You can activate this ability when making a skill roll. You'll get a boon to the roll, but then you'll become angry. So you get a condition for that. This ability cannot be used for rolls against intelligence or intelligence-based skills. They also have the ability Web Feet, which is free. Basically, they get a boon to all swimming rolls, and they always move at full speed in underwater. You got the Wolfkin. They have Hunting Instincts, so you can spend 3 willpower to designate a creature in sight or a creature you can catch the scent of. Counts as an action in combat, and you can follow the scent of your prey for a full day and spend a further 1 willpower point to gain a boon for an attack against your prey. So they can hunt and track, which is awesome. Now, then you got professions. There are 10 of these. You can roll randomly. You notice everything gives you the ability to roll randomly for stuff, which is great if you want to really quickly get going. And we have the pre-gens as well, of course. So there are 10 professions, and each of them will have different ranges of gear that you can either choose or roll for. They have a key attribute, which is the main thing they focus on for the skills that they have and what they do in combat. And then they have a heroic ability, which we'll see later on. So we have the artisan. So they construct things, they build things, they make things. Their gear, they can have weapons like warhammers, hand axes, knives. Their key attribute, strength. They have skills in axes, brawling, crafting, hammers, knives, sleight of hand, spot hidden, and swords. And they have a heroic ability, Master Blacksmith, Master Carpenter, or Master Tanner. They're the bards. Key attributes of charisma. Skills in acrobatics, bluffing, evade, knives, languages, myths and legends, performance, and persuasion. And the heroic ability is musician. And they have different type of instrument as their main fighting item. So there's a lyre, a flute, or a horn. So a very classical bard archetype. We've got the fighters. Of course, they fight things and hit them until they stop moving. Their key attribute, therefore, is strength. Again, skills in axes, bows, brawling, crossbows, evade, hammers, spears, and swords. And their heroic ability is veteran. They can start out with a broadsword, battle axe, or morning star, or short sword, or hand axe, or short spear, or long spear, and various types of armor to go with it. And they have cool names like Grimjaw. We've got the hunter, which is basically the ranger. They stalk prey in the depths of the forest. They use arrows, and they're good at hunting things. Their key attribute is agility. They have skills in acrobatics, awareness, bows, bushcraft, hunting and fishing, knives, slings, and sneaking. And their heroic ability is to have a companion. And they can have weapons like daggers, knives, or slings as well. And we got knights, looking very cool there, an elven knight with a banner and coat of arms and a cool helmet. So their key attribute is strength. They've sworn fealty to a lord or some higher purpose, including maybe a place or something like that. Their key attribute is strength, and their skills are beast lore, hammers, myths and legends, performance, persuasion, riding, spears, and swords. So quite an interesting mixture there. They're particularly effective at mounted combat because they've got the riding skill, which is really handy. Here's the mage, and he has the awesomest picture in the world. But before we get to that, I forgot to mention that the heroic ability for the knight is the guardian. But yes, the mage, look how cool he looks. Looks so awesome. Now, they don't get an innate skill. What they do instead is the ability to use magic. So they can choose from animism, elementalism, or mentalism, which becomes a trained skill. And then you choose 3 rank 1 spells and 3 magic tricks, which are like cantrips you can do whenever. You can only choose spells from your school or from the general magic category. You also get a grimoire to list your spells in. But they also get half-decent weapons. They can get a staff, which does better damage than you would expect, a knife, or they can just have an amulet and focus on spellcasting. So you get different skills depending on which magic specialism you choose, so I won't get into all that. But basically, the animist skills are kind of more related to the wilds, nature, stuff like that. Elementalists are more about, you've got spot hidden, myth and legends, of course elementalism. Then we got mentalists, so they're into acrobatics, awareness, healing, languages, and myths and legends. So yeah, interesting choices to make if you pick a mage. You got the mariner, so they are sailing the seas and potentially robbing people or doing expeditions, conducting trade. They just love plying the oceans. And their key attribute is agility. They've got skills in acrobatics, awareness, hunting and fishing, knives, languages, seamanship, swimming, and swords, with the heroic ability of sea legs. They can have weapons like daggers and short bows, scimitars, or tridents, which are cool. We've got the merchant, another great picture here. Look at this tubby little guy. Looks very wealthy. He's examining the provenance of this device here. So he loves to sell stuff. His key attribute is charisma, so he's really good at awareness, bartering, bluffing, evading, knives, persuasion, sleight of hand, and spot hidden. So he's a bit of a sneak. He can have gear like daggers, knives, and he's got the heroic ability of treasure hunter. Then we got the scholar, got a very smug looking mallard here. That's the example. Some kind of cool orrery and some scrolls, very neat. So they gather information. They're kind of the skill focused and well versed in legend and lore types people. So the key attribute is intelligence. They have skills in awareness, beast lore, bushcraft, evade, healing, languages, myths and legends, and spot hidden. And the heroic ability is intuition. They might have a staff and a notebook. They could have a knife. They could have a short sword. So generally not so much with the hitting, but they do know stuff. We got a halfling thief here who looks wary as she's sneaking along. She's got a key attribute of agility. Obviously, thieves will want to stay agile and quiet to be able to escape quickly. So likewise, she's got skills in acrobatics, awareness, bluffing, evade, knives, sleight of hand, sneaking, and spot hidden. And heroic ability is backstabbing. Doesn't sound very heroic to me, but there you go. And she can do daggers and slings, knives, or two daggers. So once you've chosen your profession, then you choose an age, and the age has an effect, which is cool. So if you go with young, you get your 6 core skills from your profession, and then you get 2 free picks for trained skills, and you modify your agility and con by +1. If you choose adult, you don't modify your attributes. You get 2 additional trained skills besides the 6 basic ones. If you choose old, you get 6 additional skills, but you reduce your strength, agility, and con by -2, and your int and willpower go up by 1, to reflect the wisdom of old age. I like that. So then we have attributes. Roll 4d6, remove the worst die, which will give you a score between 3 and 18, and then you assign that to an attribute of your choice, and then you keep doing that until you filled everything up. That's really cool because, of course, you can save your best rolls for your key attribute, which is, of course, the intent. Then you have some derived ratings. So movement is based on your kin and modified by your agility. So you get a base value from your kin, which is listed here. This is your movement in meters in a round of combat, and then your agility value will adjust it from -4 to +4. And you have a damage bonus. So if your strength or agility is less than 12, you get no bonus. 13, 16, you get +d4. 17 plus, you get +d6. And it'll be either in strength or agility that you'll get damage bonus depending on your class, which type of weapon they use. Then you get your HP, which is equal to your con, but you can increase that with the heroic ability robust. Then you have your willpower point, which is equal to your will, but can be increased by the heroic ability focused. Then you got your skills. So every skill is connected to an attribute, which determines your base chance in that skill. You look at your attribute that's linked to the skill, which is put in brackets on the character sheet, and you look at the attribute value. You look on the chart, it gives you base chance. Now this is a number you need to roll under to get a success on the skill. In addition to the base chances, you start out with a number of trained skills, which again can vary by your age. At the start of the game, your level into trained skill is equal to twice the base chance. So if you are lucky enough to have an 18 in a certain attribute, say you get a base chance of 7, double it, and get a 14 in your trained skills linked to that attribute, which is pretty awesome. You have to choose these 6 basic skills from your profession, and then you get a varying number of additional ones based on your age to be trained in as well. There are also secondary skills. So in this base game, you don't get a base chance in any secondary skills, but future expansions and supplements may modify this. So that's interesting. More to look forward to. Then we got the heroic abilities and also the ability to roll for a weakness, which I like. This is optional. So you just roll a d20, pick something from the table, or you can pick one that sounds fun to you, like being violent, boastful, kleptomaniac, thin-skinned, intolerant, slothful, all that kind of stuff. There's also an optional rule. If the heroic ability listed by your profession doesn't match the character you want, the GM might allow you to choose a different one. Then you have your starting gear. You'll get the starting gear that are listed in the appropriate rows in your profession. So you can either roll or or select one of the 3 sets of items. You can also go back and adjust your trained skills to fit whatever gear you chose if you decide that you want to do something a little bit different. You can also have a memento. So these are items of sentimental value, and you can roll on the table below, or you can choose something sensible for yourself. So it's got no practical use, but basically once per session, you can use it to recover an additional condition during a stretch rest. If you lose a memento, you can choose a new item that you found on your adventures at the end of the gaming session. We've got encumbrance, half your strength rounded up, and that's the number of items you can carry. So then it tells you specifics about how much things weigh and how many slots they take up. Tiny items like coins don't take up any encumbrance slots. Heavy items might take up more than 1. Over encumbered, in that case, you must make a strength roll whenever you want to move in a round of combat or walk for a shift of travel. If the roll fails, you have to either drop something or stay where you are. There's also riding animals and vehicles that can carry your gear for you if you have saddlebags. Then you got appearance, so you can write something down, just 1 or 2 key features about your character. If you struggle for ideas, of course, they have a d20 table to give you something random like a prominent tattoo or an ugly scar or a hissing voice or whatever. Then experience. So this works similar to BRP and Call of Cthulhu, basically. If you rolled a dragon or a demon, so fumble or a critical, basically, when using any skill, you tick the checkbox next to that skill. At the end of the session, the GM will ask you some questions, and for each question you reply yes to, and you can justify your answer to it, you can place another advancement mark next to an unmarked skill of your choice. So the GM should have the final word, but should be permissive. So the questions are, did you participate in the game session? Did you explore a new location? Did you defeat one or more dangerous adversaries? Did you overcome an obstacle without using force? And did you give in to your weakness, if you're using weaknesses? Whichever skills have a tick box, you roll a d20 for each of them. If the result is over your current skill, it's increased by 1 up to a maximum of 18. Once you've made the roll, erase the marks and start over in the next session. So it's very much like Call of Cthulhu, again, in that you use your skills and they get better, but there's a little bit more flexibility here, because if you answer yes to these key questions about your performance in the session, then you get to tick more skills, and it happens every session, so you can advance pretty quickly. Compared to Call of Cthulhu, where, for example, if you're playing a campaign, you can't roll for advancement until the end of a chapter of the campaign, which can be quite a number of sessions. You can also advance by using training, so they need to have a skill level of 15 or higher, which is above your own, and you spend a shift of intense training with them, and that'll give you an additional advancement roll to improve the skill. But they can only improve the skill level by 1. After that, you have to improve your skill by experience before you can get help from a teacher again. And also it costs money. So for magic, it's improved like any other skill, but learning new spells requires special training. For heroic abilities, if you increase the skill level to 18, you immediately gain a new heroic ability. After a grand heroic deed, the GM or the adventurer can reward you with a heroic ability. This should be rare, never more than once per standard length adventure. And to earn the heroic ability, you must meet its skill requirements. You can also overcome your weakness as an optional rule. Act during the session in a way that clearly goes against your weakness. You get 2 advancement marks instead of 1 mark for giving into it. You have now also overcome your weakness and must remove it. Play a session without a weakness, and then after that you choose a new one, preferably based on something that's occurred in the game. Alright, then we have the basics of the rule system. So rolling the dice. If you roll a 1, that's rolling a dragon. So in combat, that has special effects like increasing damage. Outside of combat, you can do things like impress everybody around you, do things faster than usual, achieve more than you expected to, etc. Failure means rolling above your skill level, and that means you didn't accomplish your goal, but they encourage you to do kind of failure at a cost. So even if you fail, there should be a way forward. The action shouldn't just stop, and the GM can decide what failure means in any situation. Rolling a demon means rolling a 20, and that means the roll fails regardless of your skill level and any other circumstances. And that also means the roll can't be pushed. They can also have additional effects in combat, like you can damage yourself or someone else or an item. Maybe you make a fool of yourself, or you make a lot of noise, so your sneak is ruined, etc. Also, they note that if you can't come up with a good skill for a situation to roll, then the GM can just have you roll against an attribute, like rolling against strength to lift a heavy door or something like that. And they also clarify that you generally only have 1 chance to succeed with any action. So either to get another chance, you need to change the situation in some way significant, or let another player character try. That doesn't apply in combat, though. And then we got boons and banes. So this is the advantage, as we all know and love. You can get multiple boons and banes, however. There's not a limit of just 1. So you can stack them. So if you get a boon, you roll an extra d20 and take the better result, the lowest result. If you have a bane, you roll another d20 and only take the highest result, which is the worst one. You can also get, like I said, several boons or banes. Each boon or bane, they cancel each other out 1 to 1. So if you get 1 of each, you'll just roll a normal skill check with 1 die, etc. So they can stack, which I much prefer to the 5e system of, once you get advantage, you can't do any better. Push your roll. So this means you make another attempt. Whatever the new result is, you have to take it. You just have to live with it. You can never push a demon roll, which is natural 20. And if you push the roll, you will get a condition. And when you get a condition, you get a bane on all rolls for skills based on a certain attribute and rolls against the attribute in question. And each attribute has a specific condition linked to it. So strength, you get exhausted. Con, you get sickly. Agility, you get dazed. Intelligence, you get angry. Will, you get scared. Charisma, you get disheartened. So if you get a condition, then all skills related to that attribute or rolls for that attribute will have a bane against them. When you decide a condition to get when you push, you can't choose a condition you already have, and you must be able to explain how the condition results from your actions. And the GM can reject your idea if they think it's stupid. You can recover conditions by resting, which is covered later. Player characters can push their rolls, but not NPCs or monsters. Then you have the techniques for opposed rolls. So if your roll fails, your action fails, regardless of the opponent's roll. If your roll succeeds, then your opponent fails, then your action succeeds. If you both succeed, your action succeeds if the result of your roll is lower than or equal to your opponent's result. If the opponent's result is lower than yours, you fail. So it's similar to Pendragon in a way, except in the opposite direction. So rather than it being better to roll close to your skill value, you want to roll lower than the opponent if you both succeed. Opposed rolls can be pushed, but only if you're the active party, not if you're the resisting party. You can also have open opposed rolls where there's no active party, and that's an open opposed rolls. And if both parties fail or both succeed, then you just re-roll, and both parties can push if they want. Then you got your core skills, which are pretty self-explanatory, but they go into the details here. So you got acrobatics, linked to agility, awareness, intelligence, bartering, charisma, beast lore, intelligence. And we have bluffing, charisma, bushcraft, intelligence, crafting, strength, evade, agility, healing, intelligence, hunting and fishing, agility, languages, intelligence, myth and legends, intelligence, performance, charisma, persuasion, charisma, riding, agility, seamanship, intelligence, sleight of hand, agility, sneaking, agility, spot hidden. So again, you can see the influence of Call of Cthulhu and BRP here with the choice of words there. Swimming, agility, and weapon skills. And there are a bunch of different ones for different weapons. So axes, bows, brawling, crossbows, hammers, knives, slings, spears, staves, and swords, and they all link to either agility or strength, as mentioned before. Then you get your heroic abilities. There's a whole bunch of these. We'll just pick a couple to look at. So backstabbing is the heroic ability that is for thieves when they start out. So you have to have a requirement of knives 12 at minimum, which should happen if you built your character correctly. Costs 3 power points. You can activate this ability when making a melee attack against an enemy that is within 2 meters of another PC. Your attack then counts as a sneak attack, which means it can't be dodged or parried. You get a boon, and the number of dice is increased by 1. So if it's D8 weapon, you get 2d8 damage instead. It can only be used with a subtle weapon, and activating this ability does not count as an action. Let's see what else we got. Companion, that's for the rangers out there. So you require hunting and fishing 12, costs 3 willpower points, and you can turn an animal, not a monster, into your companion. This takes a stretch of time. You can only have one animal companion at a time, and the GM decides which animals are nearby. It follows you as long as you remain in its natural environment, and it can scout for you at no additional WP cost. For 3 additional WP, you can command the animal to attack an enemy, which is a free action. How cool is that? Dragon Slayer, so any weapon skill 12 or above, costs 3 willpower points. Any attack aimed at a monster, not a normal NPC, deals an additional d8 damage. You activate after your roll to hit, but before your roll to damage. Intuition, so this is for scholars. You need myths and legends, minimum 12, willpower points 3. When faced with a difficult decision, you can activate this ability to ask a question directly to the GM and receive a helpful answer. The answer represents your vast general knowledge and should only aid your decision making, not reveal everything there is to know. Then we got the Master Craftsman skills here for the artisan. So we'll read Master Blacksmith. Master Blacksmith requires crafting 12, variable amount of willpower, and it lets you blacksmith tools. So in one stretch, you can sharpen a blade, the cost of 3 willpower. Against a sharpened weapon, the armor rating of an item counts as 1 step lower. The effect wears off after one combat encounter where the weapon was used to attack or parry. In one shift, you can craft a metal weapon or metal armor of your choice from the lists on pages 73 to 75. Requires a forge, an anvil, and iron of weight 1. The cost in a WP is equal to the item's price in gold. You can spread the work across multiple shifts if you don't have enough WP. And it's basically the same for carpentry and tanning. You know, they're just working with different goods basically, but the idea is essentially the same. You got the ability Sea Legs, so requirement swim 12, willpower points 1. You can activate this ability, not as an action, when performing an action in water, even if only waist deep. You are then safe from all negative effects of being in water for 1 round, including the risk of drowning. Then we got Veteran, that's the fighter special ability. You need any weapon skill at 12 or more. Willpower points cost is 1. Activating this ability at the start of a combat round allows you to retain your initiative card from the previous round instead of drawing a new one, and you don't need to spend an action to do so. How cool is that? So if you get a 1 and you like it, you can keep it. The next chapter here, combat and damage. So you draw your initiative cards. Number 1 acts first, number 2 acts second, and so forth. Everybody draws at random, and then you place your initiative card by your character sheet so everybody knows and everybody goes. If you perform an action that the GM deems surprising, so lying in wait or setting an ambush or something, get to choose any initiative card you want in the first round of combat. If several characters participate in the surprise attack, you may all choose a card. The other combatants draw initiative from the cards that remain. At the start of the second round, everybody draws the initiative as usual. Then they point out that monsters often have multiple turns, and what to deal with about that. So actions and movement. On your turn, you can move and perform one action. You explain how you want to move and what action you want to perform. And you can also roll dice to see whether you succeed if that's necessary. So the different actions you can take are listed here. So you can dash to double your movement. You can do a melee attack on an enemy within 2 meters or 4 meters for long weapons. You can attack with a ranged weapon within the weapon's range. You can parry against melee and ranged attacks, but you can only parry a ranged attack with a shield. This is a reaction that takes place outside your turn, and then it replaces your regular action during the round. That's the interesting thing about reactions in this game. So you can do a reaction at any time out of turn, but during your turn you can only move. You can also dodge, which is also a reaction. You can dodge melee or ranged attacks. You don't need a shield. You can pick up items. You can unequip or equip armor and helmets. You can do first aid with the healing skill to protect someone from dying. You can persuade someone to keep them fighting if they're at 0 HP. You can break down doors. You can pick locks with sleight of hand. You can use an item within 2 meters. You can activate an ability, like an innate or heroic ability. You can cast a spell. You can help another character, which gives them a boon to a roll in the same round. Or you can take a round rest to recover D6 WP, but you can only do that once per shift, which remember is 6 hours. Some things are free actions like drawing a weapon, changing position, like throwing yourself to the ground or getting back up again, dropping an item, or saying or shouting something. So interestingly, being prone in this game makes no difference. You can just hop right back up for a free action. Then they talk about the different types of movement, sneak attacks. First, you make a sneaking roll, and then if you move close enough to attack in melee, you'll need to roll a Bane. If you fail, the enemy notices you and you have to draw initiative. If you succeed, then you get to choose any initiative card you want, get a boon on the attack, and the opponent can't dodge or parry. And then you can do ambushes, so you wait for an enemy and each victim makes an awareness roll to spot the ambush with a Bane if the attackers are well prepared. All those who fail get the bottom cards randomly drawn. So once you've done your action for the round, you've done your turn, then you can flip the initiative card face down. So that means you can't do a reaction as well. So reaction and action are the same thing, basically. If you've done your action, then you can't then react. Or if you've done an action, you can't do a reaction later either. So you flip the card to indicate that. And they mention here you can use combat maps if you want to, and they provide those, as you'll see in the adventure book. But it works really well with Theater of the Mind, and they give you some tips about terrain. So in cramped spaces, you can basically still use all your weapons, but only piercing weapons and subtle weapons are fine. Everything else gets a Bane on all rolls. If the terrain is rough, then whenever you move, you have to make an acrobatics roll. It doesn't count as an action. Failure means that you fall over and lose the rest of your movement. And finally, if the area is dimly lit, you get a Bane on all ranged attacks, which makes sense. Then they go through how melee combat works. So you have to be within 2 meters. Use the skill that covers the type of weapon you're wielding. You roll the die, add your damage bonus to the damage roll that your weapon will have. You can have up to 3 weapons at hand, which are available. So when you attack, you draw your weapon for free. Some weapons have a strength requirement because they're huge. If you don't match that, then you get a Bane on all attacks and parries with that weapon. If your strength is less than half the requirement, you can't use the weapon at all. Also, some weapons need dual-handed grips, so you can't use a shield. And some weapons are long, so you can hit enemies up to 4 meters away, which is 2 squares on a typical battle map. Prone, I guess, does matter. So if you're standing up, your enemy is lying on the ground, or vice versa, the attack gets a boon and inflicts an extra d6 damage. So a critical hit is rolling a dragon, rolling a 1. That means that if the opponent is trying to parry or dodge, that they have to roll a dragon as well to succeed. You may choose one of the following effects. You can roll double the damage dice. You can immediately perform a second attack against another enemy as a free action, or you can find a weak spot in the enemy's armor. That's only if you have a piercing weapon, though. And there are 3 different types of damage: slashing, piercing, bludgeoning, which are listed with each type of weapon. You can also do a shove. So you hit an enemy with a melee attack, and if your damage bonus is equal to or higher than your opponent's damage bonus, you can choose to shove them up to 2 meters in any direction in addition to doing your damage. Demon roll in melee is bad. You miss your enemy, you can't push the roll, and you might suffer an additional mishap. GM can choose the effect, or you can roll d6 on this table. Typical stuff like dropping your weapon, you expose yourself to the enemy, you hit yourself by mistake, that kind of thing. And inanimate objects you hit automatically, which makes sense. Parrying is a reaction, as we mentioned before. The enemy's attack hits your weapon or shield, you don't take damage, but if the damage rolled exceeds your weapon durability, the weapon is damaged and can't be used until it's repaired with a crafting roll. With a shield, you can also parry with it. There's no skill for shields, instead you can use any strength-based melee skill to parry with a shield. Piercing attacks can never damage a parrying weapon or shield, by the way. And as a rule, monsters can't be parried unless otherwise specified. If you roll a dragon when parrying, you immediately perform a counterattack on your opponent, but that doesn't apply if the opponent rolled a dragon as well. Dodging, you can't dodge and parry in the same attack, you must choose one or the other. You can dodge while you're prone, and you roll for evade. On success, you evade the attack and take no damage. On failure, you're hit. So it requires that you haven't already performed your action in the round. You may move up to 2 meters in any direction when you dodge. As a rule, monster attacks can be dodged, but they can't be parried. That's interesting. Then we've got some info about special attacks. These are things that you can do in melee as well. So you're finding a weak spot with a piercing weapon. If you roll a Bane and still hit doing this action, you find a gap in the enemy's armor, and then they don't get to reduce the damage by their armor rating. If you roll topple, if your weapon has a topple trait or you try to topple them, then this is instead of inflicting damage, you do an opposed roll between your skill level and the weapon and the enemy's evade. If the weapon has a toppling feature, you get a boon. The attack counts as an action for you, but not for your opponent, and can be dodged or parried. So basically, you want to work with other people to use this to great effect. You can topple the opponent, and your opponent can attack them as prone and get an extra d6 damage. You can also disarm your enemy with an opposed roll between your and the enemy's skill level and the weapons you're using. The attack counts as an action, can't be dodged or parried. If the weapon you're trying to disarm is a two-handed one, you get a Bane. If you succeed, the weapon lands d6 meters away in a direction of your choice. Disarm doesn't work on shields or natural weapons, of course. Finally, you can grapple. So this is opposed brawling roll. Counts as an action for you, but not for your opponent. Can't be dodged or parried. If you fail, you fall to the ground. If it succeeds, you both fall to the ground and the enemy is trapped in your grip, and they have to keep rolling to try and escape. While maintaining your grip, you can't do anything else except break the attack or release the enemy. Give some tips here about melee combat, and then we get into range combat. So again, it works very similarly to melee combat, but here you're at a distance. You should preferably be positioned over 2 meters away. If you're standing 2 meters away or less, you give Bane on your attack, and you roll against the skill for the weapon you're using. If the attack hits, you roll your damage. Of course, if you roll a dragon, then you can get more damage, etc. And the damage will be increased by your damage bonus, and by dragons, and decreased by armor. If you roll a demon, then you miss your target, you can't push the roll, and you get another mishap, which is we've seen before. And each weapon has a sort of range where it's most effective. You can fire at targets up to twice the listed range, but then you get a Bane. If you get a critical hit with a dragon, then your opponent can only dodge it if they also roll a dragon, and you can choose to double the damage, or you can ignore the armor. Parrying and dodging a ranged attack bar is a shield, and you can dodge ranged attacks just like melee attacks. If the view of your target is partially obscured by an object or person, whether it's friend or foe, you get a Bane on your attack. If you're completely out of sight, you can't shoot that person at all. If you're playing without a map, the GM will decide about your line of sight. Fair enough. Then we have damage. So wearing armor will protect your body from damage. Equipping the armor counts as an action in combat, and you can only wear one suit of armor at a time. Some armors give you a Bane on certain skill rolls or restrict your movement, which we'll see on the character sheets. So whenever you take damage from physical attack, you subtract the armor rating from the damage. If you get more subtraction than the attack roll does damage, then the melee attack is negated and the attacking weapon itself suffers the damage instead, which could break it. Your armor can also be combined with a helmet. They also give you a Bane with certain skills, but they increase your armor rating further. So if your HP reaches 0, you drop to the ground and risk dying. You can't perform anything except trying to rally. So first, on each turn in each subsequent round, you must make a death roll against your con. You can't use push rolls on it. After 3 successful death rolls, you recover d6 HP and you're back in the action. After 3 failed death rolls, you die. Rolling a dragon counts as 2 successful death rolls. A demon counts as 2 failures. If the combat ends, you keep counting rounds until all death rolls have been made, so you're not out of the woods if the combat just finishes. If you get additional damage while at 0, it automatically counts as a failed death roll. There's also an optional rule for damage types and armor. So leather and studded leather get a +2 bonus against bludgeoning damage. Chainmail gets +2 bonus against slashing damage. Then we have the rally action. So another player character within 10 meters and earshot can persuade you to rally and keep fighting despite having 0 HP. If you rally, you continue acting as normal but keep making death rolls. You can even try to rally yourself, rolling against your will with a Bane. A person can save your life when you're at 0 HP with a successful healing roll, but they need bandages, otherwise they get a Bane to the roll. This counts as an action. Multiple attempts are allowed. If the roll succeeds, you stop making death rolls and recover d6 HP, but you can't do this to yourself. If a single attack reduces your HP to a negative score equal to your full HP, you die instantly. Now, NPCs work differently. When NPCs reach 0 HP, they just die. And they can die instantly by a killing attack, just like a PC, if the GM decides so. So if you've been reduced to 0 HP but survived, you risk a severe injury. Make a roll against con, and if you fail, you get one of the injuries listed below. They'll have cool side effects, so like a broken nose gives you a Bane on awareness rolls, takes d6 days to heal. Teeth knocked out, your performance and persuasion skills are permanently reduced by 2 to a minimum of 3. You get a concussion, you get a Bane on all skills based on int, healing times d6 days, lots of cool stuff like that. Then we got some more detail on conditions. So you can heal one condition during a stretch rest, and a shift rest heals all your conditions. Remember, a stretch is 15 minutes, a shift is 6 hours. If you suffer all 6 conditions, you instead will lose d6 WP if you suffer another condition, and if you're out of WP, you instead start losing HP. Conditions stack, and then If you run out of them to pick, you start losing your valuable WP and then HP. And then talk about healing and resting. So a round rest only recovers D6 WP, and it just takes one combat round. Stretch rest lasts for one stretch of 15 minutes. You heal D6 HP, 2d6 HP if someone is helping you. They give up their rest for that and do a healing roll. You also recover D6 willpower points and heal a condition of your choice. But you can have something dramatic happen that interrupts your rest, and then those effects are lost. You can have a stretch rest once per shift. And then you have a shift rest, which is 1 6-hour block, and you can only be in a safe location where there are no enemies nearby. Here you recover all your lost HP and WP and heal all conditions, but if you're interrupted by combat or hard work, it has no effect. And of course, you use magic to heal HP better than usual. Then we've got some stuff about various hazards, environmental hazards. So darkness can be abated by torches and lanterns. Torches are single use, and lanterns can be refilled with lamp oil. Torches can be used as weapons as well, but they're unreliable. So after each stretch, the GM will roll a die to see if the torch goes out. You also need to roll that if you use it as a weapon. Then you've got fear. So a lot of monsters can do fear attacks. They can be triggered also by magic and other stuff. So you immediately make a roll against willpower. The roll can be pushed and does not count as an action. Particularly frightening events can give you a bane. If it fails, you roll on the fear table. So it'll give you different effects. Roll a d8. You can be anything from enfeebled to shaken to pale to screaming to enraged, paralyzed, or just wild panic and you run away. And then we got poisons. So lethal poisons will do damage to you until they kill you. If you fail a con roll, if you succeed the con roll, you get the limited effect and take d6 damage on one turn. Paralyzing poison, the full effect if you fail a con roll, you become exhausted and have to make a con roll each turn. And if you fail, you can't move or perform actions that round. You get a limited effect by succeeding on the initial con roll, you just become exhausted. Finally, sleeping poison, you become dazed, have to make a con roll each turn, and if it fails, you fall asleep and remain sleeping for one shift. If you're being given an antidote or take a point of damage, that'll wake you up. The limited effect there is you become just dazed. You can also get dangerous diseases. You become sickly and lose d6 HP if you succeed in an opposed roll against the disease's virulence rating and your con. While you're sick, you can't heal HP, WP, or conditions. You make a new roll against the disease every day. Each failure inflicts d6 damage. If you reach 0 HP while sick, you die a day later. If you win the opposed roll, you're fully cured. You stop rolling, you can heal as usual. If somebody tends to you with the healing skill while you're sick, that person can make the roll against the disease instead of you. They roll for healing against the virulence, and an herbal concoction can add a boon to the roll. We've got falling damage as well. Falling on a hard surface inflicts a number of d6s of bludgeoning damage equal to half the height of the fall rounded down. Fall of less than 2 meters inflicts no damage. You can also drown. They assume that PC characters are decent swimmers. Your movement rate is half your movement rate on land. Range attacks cannot be performed in water. Melee attacks are performed with a bane. More difficult underwater maneuvers require a swimming roll, and you get a bane if you're wearing chainmail or plate armor. After each stretch that you're in the water, you must roll swimming to stay afloat. If you're wearing chainmail or plate armor, you roll every round. And underwater, you need to roll con each round to hold your breath. Unless you're a Mallard. If the roll fails, you begin to drown, taking d6 damage per round until someone rescues you. You make death rolls as usual if you reach 0 HP from drowning, but only failed rolls count. Somebody has to rescue you. Then you got hunger. You have to eat at least one ration of food per day. After one day without food, you become famished. You can't heal HP, WP, or conditions except through magic. You also take 1 point of damage per day that you haven't eaten. If you reach 0 HP while famished, you die from starvation the next day. Cold. So you have to roll bushcraft once per shift. And if you don't have a blanket, you get a bane, while a fur will give you a boon. On a failure, you lose d6 HP and d6 WP. It can no longer heal these or conditions except through magic. You must then keep making rolls to withstand the cold with the same effect if you fail. If you reach 0 HP while cold, you die when it's time for the next roll. Only when you get warm can you stop making rolls. Finally, you have sleep deprivation. You have to have one shift of interrupted sleep every day. You can't sleep in armor. After 3 shifts without sleep, you no longer heal WP or conditions. You can heal HP though, but you lose d6 WP each shift you remain awake. If you reach 0 WP while suffering from sleep deprivation, you collapse and sleep for at least one shift that can't be woken. Then we have riding animals. So the gear list for the animals will tell you the saddlebags, which is how many units of weight the animal can carry. They can travel twice as fast as you can on foot, so 30 kilometers per shift. All player characters can ride slowly on a horse, but for more advanced maneuvers, you need to roll for riding. To fight in combat on horseback, your mount must be combat trained. Then you can move at your mount's movement rate instead of your own. On horseback, you can fight, but all attacks and parries use the lowest of your riding skill and weapon skill. Also, riding replaces evade. If you don't have a saddle, all rolls get a bane. Enemies attacking you must choose whether they target you or your mount. Melee attacks from the ground get a bane against you. Mounts heal HP just like player characters. A mount that reaches 0 AP simply dies. Then we have your improvised weapons. So these can be lots of things, but the playing cards in the box are just examples. GM can draw 3 cards to see which improvised weapons are available, or just decide if they want. And they can mark them on the map or say that they're available in a certain place in the area, and then you can use them if you get to that spot. Then we got magic. So there's loads of different spells listed here. I say loads, but there's actually not that many. But there's enough to make things interesting. So you have your 3 types. Animism, which is about the world being alive. Everything has spirits and gods. All things have a soul. So spirits and gods are neither good nor evil. They're not omnipotent, but they have great power and should be treated with respect. And they lend power to your magic. Elementalists control the 4 elements of wind, water, earth, and fire in different combos. The mind and spirit are associated with wind, as are adaptability and creativity are linked to water. Action and energy are linked to fire, and steadfastness and determination are properties of earth. Mentalists believe your mind and body are the center of the universe, so by focusing and training your mind, you gain control of your body and the magic that flows through it. And general magic can be used by any school. So spells are complicated, and the most you can hold it prepared in your memory at the same time is equal to your base chance for intelligence. When you reach your limit and want to prepare another spell, you need to replace a spell, which means you need to study them from Grimoire, which takes a shift of time. You can only prepare spells that you have learned. Mark your prepared spells with an X on your character sheet so you know that they're ready to go. Spells are divided into rank. First you start with only rank 1 spells. We can learn higher rank spells during the game. And then you have your magic tricks. These are minor, relatively harmless spells that you can do whatever you want. The limit on prepared spells doesn't apply, and they're always prepared. So casting spells requires a roll. You spend willpower points and roll against your skill level in the relevant school of magic, which if you're a mage you choose at character creation. Any school can be used to cast general spells. If it succeeds, the spell has the intended effect, otherwise it has no effect. You can push the roll. Magic tricks succeed automatically and always cost 1 WP. At 0 WP, you can potentially drain WP from another person. Hitting 0 WP has no other effect than prohibiting the use of abilities that require WP. Power level of a spell is how much WP you charge it with. So some spells, they can be more powerful. You can get 1 to 3 willpower points. If you don't have enough WP left, you can draw power from your body. So you roll a die of your choice, D4, D6, D8, D10, D12, or D20, before casting the spell. The result indicates how many WP you gain and must use straight away, but also take the same amount of damage. So there's a nice risk reward there. Magic doesn't like metal, so you can't use metal, including partially metal items. You also need to be able to fulfill the spell requirements. You must be able to speak if it requires words. Move your arms requires a gesture. You may need a focus, like a wand, crystal ball, or amulet. And you may need certain ingredients which are consumed in the process. Casting time, so usually a spell always counts as an action combat. Reaction spells can be performed outside your own turn. Unlike other reactions, they don't replace your regular action. Cast as many of them as you want if you have enough WP. There are also rituals, which take a stretch of time or even a shift to perform. Casting an unprepared spell from your grimoire is possible, but takes twice as long. Make the roll when the spell is completed. Reaction spells cannot be cast from your grimoire, obviously, because you can't do it fast enough. And they have some details about area of effects, range. You can also affect a spherical area or a cone. Magic items may contain spells as well. Basically, you need to roll against languages or any school of magic to identify the spells in an item and be able to use them. And using the spells inside a magic item costs WP. Some magical items can also store WP, which you can use instead of your own. Spells have different durations, of course. They can be instant. There's no lasting effect. It could last until your turn in the next round. They could last for 1 full stretch. They could last until the end of the current shift. Or they could be maintained so long as you maintain concentration. So that means you need to spend your action each turn on maintaining the spell. You can't take damage or fail a willpower roll for resisting fear. If you're interrupted by a sudden disturbance, then you make a will roll to maintain your concentration. If you roll a dragon when you cast a spell, your target must roll a dragon to resist, parry, or dodge the spell, and you choose either to double the damage or range of the spell. You can make it cost 0 WP, or you can immediately cast another spell but get a bane on the roll. If you roll a demon, you can't push the roll, and there's a risk of something terribly going wrong, and there's a magical mishaps table. You can become younger, you can turn into an animal, the spell can backfire, you can become 1 category older, you can attract a demon from another dimension, which immediately attacks you. You can vomit a frog, you can make any gold or silver you touch wither into dust. Then learning magic, so you have to have a prerequisite that is met. You can use a teacher as well. If you're lucky, you can find another mage's grimoire or kill them and take it. You make a roll against int if you're using a teacher with a boon. On success, you learn the spell. If you've got a grimoire, you roll against languages instead of int and you don't get a boon. Magic tricks, you just need to take 1 stretch to learn a new trick for a teacher or grimoire. You don't need a advancement mark or a roll or anything. You can learn additional schools of magic by acquiring the heroic ability magic talent and then studying under a teacher with a skill level in the school for at least a week. Then you make a roll against int. On success, you get your base chance int as the skill level in the school. On failure, you may try again after another week of study. Even non-mages can learn magic this way. Then we got general magic. So tricks are useful but not very powerful. So you can fetch things from within 10 meters. They float to you. You can give something a flick to do 1 point of damage or shatter glass. You can create a bright light. It lasts for 1 shift. That's pretty cool. But it goes out if you hit 0 HP. You can open or close an unlocked door from 10 meters away, and you can repair clothes and clean them automatically, and you can also sense magic. Then we get general useful magic, like dispelling an ongoing spell of low or equal power level. Protector, so it protects you from magic. Magic Shield interferes with spells cast by another mage. You can steal WP from another creature with Transfer. You can bind a spell to an inanimate object with Magic Seal. You can charge an inanimate object with WP from your resource, and then it acts like a battery. You can make effects permanent, so you could make your willpower battery permanent. Animism has its own tricks. So bird song, you're surrounded by lovely bird song for one stretch, and it gives you a boon to awareness, but it only works outdoors. You can clean the room that you're in. All dust and dirt disappear and the room is put in order. You can cook food automatically without a bushcraft roll, and it happens instantly. You can leave a floral trail of beautiful flowers wherever you walk, which wither after a shift. You can change, finally, the color, length, and style of your hair as you see fit. And you've got spells that allow you to be an animal whisperer. You can banish demons and undead. You can ensnare victims with roots. You can call down lightning flashes. You can treat wounds. Engulf people in thickets and roots from the forest. You can cast lightning bolts, which are bigger than a lightning flash. You can heal bigger wounds. Exorcise a demon or undead. You can put things to sleep. You can restore 2d10 HP and 1 severe injury. You can resurrect somebody, or you can finally do Thunderbolt, which is very powerful. Elementalism, with magic tricks heat or chill the area within 10 meters of you becomes pleasantly warm or cold, and protects you against cold for one shift of time. You can ignite candles, torches, or lanterns within 10 meters, and you can do a puff of smoke in front of you, very popular for dramatic entrances. It can give you a boon to sneaking in certain situations. Smoke screen. You can throw fireballs. You can drastically lower the temperature around you to cause damage. You can create a gust of wind, chuck things around to do bludgeoning damage. You can create a pillar of fire. You can shatter things, physical objects. You do 2d10 damage on inanimate and non-magical things. You can do fire blast, which is a bigger fireball, or you can do stone shield, which summons a shield of stone that decreases damage by 2d6. You can do a stone wall that can separate the combat area. You can do a tidal wave if you're near a water source. All untethered creatures are pushed 2d6 meters away from the surface. You increase the dice by adding more power to the spell. You do a whirlwind, which chucks things around even more harshly, and you can take a bane on the roll to let one person be hurled to a spot of your choice. Fling a friend to somewhere useful. Firebird is the most powerful version of Fireball, does loads of damage, sets fire to everything. Firestorm is a whirling storm of fire all around you, so it's a sphere around you. You can summon an earth elemental. A gnome has their stats here, and they have the ability to cast Pillar. You can summon a fire elemental, which is Salamander. They can cast Fire Blast, and they have weapons and resistances and immunities of their own. You can summon a wind elemental, the Sylph. They have Howling Wind as a weapon, and Gust of Wind as a spell. And finally, you can summon the water elemental, the Undyne, who has a Wet Embrace as a weapon. And they can cast Tidal Wave. Finally, we got Mentalism. So this is your psychic powers. You can use lock or unlock as your magic trick. So if the lock is non-magical, you just open it, and just by touching them. You can create a magical stool where you can just sit and put things on, last till you leave the area. And you can slow your fall no matter the height. Land light as a feather. You can do Far Sight, which lets you see things far away as if you were there. You can levitate yourself or another object or person. You can do Long Strider, giving the target double movement. You can do Power Fist, so your unarmed attacks are stronger per power level. Stone Skin, you get armor rating 4, and you can boost it by 2 for additional power levels. Divination, choose an item, substance, creature, or phenomenon, and the spell will show you the direction to the nearest target of the specified type. You can enchant weapons, so that rolling 1 or 2 counts as a dragon when attacking or parrying. Each power level increases the chance of rolling a dragon by 1. So power level 2, it's 1 to 3 to roll a dragon, and level 3, it's 1 to 4 to roll a dragon. Mental Strike, you hurl a psychic attack at somebody. Scrying, you can gain knowledge of past events that occurred in the places you are in, even if no one alive remembers what happened. Telepathy, to read the surface thoughts of somebody else. Deeper memories will require a greater power. You can dominate somebody to take complete control, so it's an opposed roll against the victim's willpower. You can fly, either for yourself or give it to somebody else. With a movement rating of 6, you can increase the power to make the movement much faster. You can teleport up to 100 meters, but you must be able to see the destination or have visited it before. For each power level you add to it, you can bring somebody else with you. And that's magic, so not a lot of stuff, but pretty cool stuff, and definitely fun to use, easy to understand. Then we got our weapons and gear. So supply just talks about the level of rarity of certain items. Common stuff is available anywhere. Uncommon is available from the artisan making it, which is not necessarily in every village. Rare items must be special ordered from a particular artisan, and unique items can only be found in treasure or from the person who found the precious item. Weapons and armor have certain stats. So grip is 1 or 2-handed. Strength means how much strength you need to use it. Damage is how much damage it does. Obviously, durability is how much damage you can parry without damage damaging the weapon. Range is the maximum range for range weapons. And then they can have different features. So subtle, you get a boon and the increased damage on sneak attacks. Long, you can attack enemies 4 meters away. Toppling, you get a boon when you try to trip somebody or topple them. Piercing damage, obviously changes the effectiveness of armor, as does slashing and bludgeoning. Armor rating is the amount of damage the armor subtracts from an attack. When you combine armor with a helmet, but you can only wear one type of armor at a time. And you can see there's loads of melee weapons. There have your strength requirement, 1 or 2-handed grip, your range, which is 2 for most, 4 for some longer weapons. The damage, which can vary quite a bit. Durability, how easy they are to break, the cost in gold, silver, supply rating, and any special features on the right here. We got loads of cool stuff. Very medievalistic stuff like daggers, short swords, broadswords, great swords, hand axes, 2-handed axes, maces, flails, warhammers, clubs, spears, halberds, etc. And of course shields. Master crafted increases the cost by 10 times, but reduces strength requirement by 3 and increases durability by 3. You got range weapons, which are sling, short bow, long bow, and 3 types of crossbow, light, heavy, and hand. The crossbow heavy and crossbow hand are rare. They require a quiver and have no damage bonus, but the sling, short bow, and long bow, they do benefit from damage bonuses. And the sling is the only range weapon that does bludgeoning. Everything else is piercing. You've got some clothes, which protects against some journey mishaps, or can give you some bonuses on certain kinds of rolls, depending on the weather or bushcraft or whatever. Then you've got musical instruments. So depending on the instrument, you'll get a reduction in the WP cost of the music ability, which is for the bards and can help your allies in combat and stuff. And then we've got trade goods. This is just stuff that you might find that could be useful, like a quiver of arrows, playing cards, rope, saddles, and then you got some cool additional stuff like spyglasses. You can get a boon on bushcraft rolls for leading the way during journeys. Tents can help you create a safe place to rest, etc. For magic and studies, you can buy grimoires, amulets, books, chalk, hourglasses, and they tell you which ones can be used as focuses for spells. A book will give you a boon on skill rolls in a specific subject, and the cost will vary depending on the subject. Then we've got light sources. So flint and tinder is required to light sources unless you're using a spell to do so. You need lamp oil for your lanterns or oil lamps, and then you have candles and torches, which are useful, but the candles only have a 4-meter radius and torches have a 10-meter radius, and both of them can go out due to gusts of wind or other things. You got tools for crafting. You can also use them to break things open like doors and walls and stuff. You got containers, which can carry a certain amount of weight, which is listed here. Different medicine types, 3 different types of poison. Cost is multiplied by the potency you want to get. Herbal concoctions are used for resisting disease with healing rolls. You got your healing potions that heal 2d6 HP. Stronger potions can heal more but are more expensive. Bandages are required to avoid a ban on healing rolls for saving lives, and each attempt will consume a bandage. And finally, surgical instruments give you a boon on healing rolls for saving a life. Then you've got services you can pay for, like lodging, meals, road tolls, stagecoaches, tankards of mead. You can hire bodyguards, which are statted out as typical guards. You can do hunting and fishing equipment. You can get different means of travel, like canoes, carts, boats, and wagons. Different animals, which have different costs, supply ratings, and comments. Some of them are rideable, and some of them you can slaughter them and cook the meat to make rations. Then we got a bestiary. So here's the ferocity bit. So as I mentioned before, a monster will often have a ferocity rating, and that indicates the number of attacks it gets per round. So you draw that number of cards. They come in lots of sizes: small, normal, large, and huge. A huge monster can block an area of 8 by 8 meters, and a small monster is less than a meter tall and can't block any area. And a swarm can range in size from normal to huge but doesn't block anything, and they can pass through tiny passages. Monster attacks, they can be dodged, generally not parried unless otherwise said so. Monster attacks can inflict conditions. If they give you a condition you already have, you have to choose a different one. And the monster never makes the same attack twice in a row. So this means that, there's always a different challenge coming every round. The GM can't just keep doing the best thing every time. It's a monster. It's a wild, dangerous thing. It's going to do all sorts of crazy stuff. And if you roll the same attack on consecutive rounds, you have to choose a different one. And you can also make monsters more dangerous by increasing the ferocity and adjusting the HP. Monsters can have skills, but they're mainly used outside of combat or for opposed rolls, but not for attack. They only attack using their monster attacks. You can find weak spots in a monster's natural armor. You can also try to topple them, rolling against a default evade skill of 15. If the monster has 4 legs or more, you also get a bane on the roll. Monsters can't be disarmed or grappled. Monsters can see in darkness, so they don't care whether it's dark or not, and they are resistant to certain damage types and can even be immune to certain stuff. And they're too terrifying to get scared themselves, and they're also immune to persuasion unless otherwise stated. So we'll just flip through these quickly. We've got demons. Let's see an example here. They've got ferocity 2, so they attack twice per round. They're large, movement 16, armor 4, HP 64. Got loads of cool attacks. They can do fear attacks, claw attacks with 2d10 damage. They can curse somebody with a random effect. They can do a huge bludgeoning attack that hurls somebody. They can sting you with a scorpion tail and do lots of piercing damage and a paralyzing poison. And they can possess you, and they can basically take control of you for a turn. You got dragons. They can let out a roar to make you suffer fear. They can attack you with claws to 2 players at once. And they've got a ferocity of 3, mind you, so they can attack 3 times per round. They can do a dragon wind, flapping their wings to hurl things around and doing bludgeoning damage. They do tail strikes to knock people over and do bludgeoning damage. They can do a dragon bite for 4d10 slashing damage, ouch. And fire breath, it's a cone 10 meters long. Anybody who's hit suffers 3d10 damage with no effect from armor, yikes. We got ghosts with ferocity 2, movement 12, no armor, HP 27. They have immunity to all damage except magical and fire. Once they've been defeated, they're only banished for 1 shift. So you got to get rid of the ghost and either run away to somewhere else and leave them be, or find out what their unfinished business is. It keeps them bound to the world of the living. And they have cool attacks like Ghost Strike. They can lunge at you and strike you with great force. They can reach its hand into your chest and grab your heart, suffer 2d10 points of damage and become scared. You can do a Ghost Scream, AoE fear attack, Death Stare. The victim becomes scared, suffers a fear attack, and gets a bane on their will roll for the fear attack. Wow. Ghostly Embrace. Basically, they try to smother your spark of life, inflicting tons of bludgeoning damage and leaving you dazed. And they can strike you with the Icy Chill of Death. So you need to warm up to get out of that situation. You got giants, ferocity 1, but they're huge and have a movement of 18, pretty hefty, and a lot of hit points. They've got a large weapon. If they lose the weapon, then attacks 1 and 4 re-rolled, and they've got a weak spot on the top of their head. And they do stuff like crushing blows with a huge bludgeoning attack. They roar, getting a fear attack. They can stomp you and knock you down and do huge damage. They can knock down anybody within 10 meters. They can pick you up and throw you, or they can smash you with his fists, feet, and weapons in a frenzy of blows. Everyone within 10 meters suffers 3d6 bludgeoning damage and is knocked down. A giant spider, ferocity 2, because they're quick. Size normal, so they're about human size, which is still disgusting. They can attack you with mandibles for slashing damage. They can tear at you with their legs. Everybody within 2 meters suffers d8 piercing damage each. They can mesmerize you to make a fear attack. They can do a poison sting, shoot a stinger out of their body. If they do at least 1 damage, you also get a paralyzing poison, potency 16. They can do a web attack. If you make an evade roll and fail, you're stuck in the web and can't move, and you need to do a successful strength roll with a bane to break free, and that counts as your actions. Others can help you to remove the bane. Or they can do a ramming attack, throwing a massive body at a character, knocking you down, doing bludgeoning damage. Got goblins, who are basically NPCs, so they have character-like stats. They have armor, HP, certain skills, typical weapons, and you've got scouts, warriors. They're also nocturnal, so they get a bane on all rolls and d6 damage per stretch spent in sunlight. Then we got the griffin. They're ferocity 2, size large, movement 30, and they can fly. They can snap you with their beak. They can do a rearing strike and try to tear you apart with d6 rapid strikes, d8 damage each. They can do sweeping claws, knocking down everybody within 2 meters and doing damage. They can grab you with their beak and throw you, piercing damage, and you get thrown and knocked prone. They can do a whirlwind with their wings, area of effect bludgeoning attack, and they can do a high drop. They take to the sky if you can't dodge the attack, grab you, fly 2d6 plus 6 meters into the air, and then on the next turn they drop you, so you take damage from the fall. They've got harpies. So they've got ferocity 1 per harpy. They fly in a swarm, HP 12 per harpy, and movement 24. They also have wings, and they are cowardly. So once half the flock has been killed, the rest will flee, but they'll return later if suitable. They can do a threatening cackle for a fear attack. They can do a coordinated attack, an attack to whoever's wearing the most metal. They also lift you into the air and then drop you, but only for d3 plus 3 meters. They can throw rocks and junk from the air to get everybody within 10 meters. Try and gouge out your eyes. For 1 stretch, you'll be blinded and act as if in total darkness. They can do a mass attack and attack a bunch of people within 10 meters, or they can do an excrement attack, opening their cloacae and mouths and release a rain of vomit and excrement. Everybody within 10 meters must choose a condition. Probably sickened would be the appropriate one. Manticores, they're ferocity 2, size large. They can attack you with their tail. It shoots a spike at you for within 20 meters, and it gives you piercing damage and potency 12 paralyzing poison. They can do a razor sharp bite. They can do a claw attack and knock you prone. They can sweep 2 players at once with the tail. They can crush you with a charge and knock you down. Do a rain of spikes from its tail, so everybody within 10 meters suffers d10 piercing damage and are injected with a paralyzing poison of potency 12. Got Minotaurs, ferocity 2, size large. They've got a two-handed axe. They can do a bull fist attack, leaving you dazed, even if the armor stops all the damage. That's pretty rough. They do a hoof kick, throws you a huge distance away and knocks you prone. Horn rush, they try to impale two adventurers within 2 meters of each other, hoping to impale them on its sharp horns. Both victims suffer piercing damage and are knocked down. They can do a cleaving chop, weapon damage plus an extra d10, but you can parry it. Sweeping attack, hitting everyone within 2 meters, inflicting weapon damage, and stomping attack. They jump in the air and crash down on an adventurer, 2d10 bludgeoning damage, knocking you prone. They've got orcs who are NPCs again, like the goblins, so they have NPC style stats and none of the special monster abilities. They've got warriors, shamans who can cast ensnaring roots, lightning flash, and treat wounds in animism, and they carry staves. Warriors carry scimitars, and chieftains, they've got abilities, including robust times 4, give them lots more HP, and they carry 2 scimitars. Skeletons, these are also like NPCs. Piercing damage is halved, and they're immune to fear and persuasion. Movement is not that great, except for the skeleton champion is 10, which is not too bad. And of course, they get increasingly tough as you go along. Back to the world of monsters, we have the troll, ferocity 2, size large. They can vomit on you, which is gross, and you get a condition of your choice if you're within 6 meters. They can do a rending attack, and if they hit you, you contract a disease with virulence 10. Repulsive bite with 2d8 damage. You're stuck in their mouth until you can break free. They can pick you up and throw you like a rag doll, doing bludgeoning damage and knocking you prone. They can do a sweeping blow, hitting everybody within 2 meters. They can do a mangling smash. The troll grabs the nearest PC and uses the victim as a weapon by slamming them into another character. Both suffer 2d8 bludgeoning damage and are knocked prone. Wights, ferocity 2, size normal. They're riding about on their undead horses. They can do an unholy roar, doing an AoE fear attack. A dreadful gaze, making you scared. A fear attack with a bane on the will roll against it. Hand of the dead, where they just gesture at you and they throw you 2d4 meters away, landing prone, and you can't dodge the attack. Sweeping attack, they catch everybody within 2 meters, but the attack can be parried. Crippling cold, like the chill of death with the ghost, and they can do a power attack. The damage is rolled with twice the weapon's normal number of dice, and the victim is knocked to the ground, but you can parry the attack. Finally, we have the vampiric bats. They have just 3 attacks. A swirling horror, everybody within 10 meters suffers a fear attack. Collective attack, they attack the player with the highest con for 2d6 damage, and they heal the same amount of HP for themselves by drinking blood. They are swarmed, by the way, with ferocity 2, and they do a mass attack, attacking all characters within 10 meters. Everybody gets d8 slashing damage, and the bats again heal themselves from drinking the victim's blood. Then we got basic stats for common animals: cats, dogs, donkeys, wild boars, deer, bears, etc. And then we have some tips on adventuring. So the travel rules: journeys proceeds in shifts. There are 4 shifts per day. You can hike 15 kilometers per shift on foot or 30 kilometers on horseback. Difficult terrain can slow you down. You can only walk or ride for a maximum of 2 shifts per day. Otherwise, you can do a forced march for a 3rd shift, but you become exhausted in the process. You can never travel more than 3 shifts during a day. The rules are designed for short treks. If it's a long journey, then it's better to just like skip over it and say, oh, now you're in the other continent or whatever. A person should be Pathfinder if you're in the wilderness. They need to make a bushcraft roll, and a spyglass gives you a boon, as we saw before. Rolling a dragon, you find a shortcut. The distance covered the shift is doubled. If the terrain is particularly difficult, you add a bane to the bushcraft roll. Then we got mishaps that can happen during travel. These are things like fog, blocking terrain, getting lost, swarm of mosquitoes, wasps, savage animals, random encounters. You have to watch for cold weather depending on the terrain. Talks about making camp, making food from hunting, fishing, foraging, and cooking. And then the role of the Game Master, and it's got some typical NPC stats for you, which are really handy, like guards, if your players have that heroic ability, minions and bosses. So the bosses are your big bads, like the monsters and stuff that you want to be powerful and interesting. These are like randos that can be NPCs your players can interact with, or they have some generic bosses like Bandit Chief, Knight Champion, or Archmage. Pretty cool. And a table for rolling NPCs. So you roll a d4 for attitude, d6 for kin, d8 for motivation, d10 for profession, d12 for a special trait, d20 for a name. And then you can roll attributes, or you can use these sort of shorthand rules here. And then hot tips about creating adventures. So laying out adventure sites, and then it gives you some ideas for traps, treasure, and the use of treasure cards. And there's a table for randomly rolling a quest, which is pretty cool. Rolls for a random journey, and a roll for a random adventure site. So really designed for pick up and play. Of course, you can do campaigns as well. The Adventures book is an example of a campaign if you play the whole thing. And that's what we're going to look at next. So here we go. The adventures book we're just going to skim through because I don't want to spoil stuff, but just to show off that there is loads of cool stuff in here. So as you can see, there's an opening scene, there's an outskirts of the area that you're in, random encounters in different areas of where you are, and then there's 10 different adventure sites that you can travel to. It talks about the use of adventure cards, the map, so there's a large full color map, and then there's this one inside the book as well. You can see the different adventure sites in green here, and each of those has random encounter tables and other stuff associated with them. There's history of the adventure, the current situation, the course of events, the opening scene, demonic omens that can happen. There's some battle maps here. There's some additional monsters and fights that you can have. So this is what happens when you arrive, rumors you can hear, random events that can happen. A lovely map here of the outskirts. Well, it's a town called Outskirt, I should say. There are armed villagers there and somebody called Hardy, apparently. And there are different locations, some NPCs, some demonic bats, and some other NPCs. Lots of people to interact with. That's cool. And there's a crypt of Umdurman, which has a map to itself. And some bad guys, then some journeys stuff, random encounters around Outskirt, in the Magna Woods, in the Iron Forest, the Haunted Marshes, and the foot of the mountains. And then we have details about the adventure sites, and so we'll just skim through these. There's random events associated with them, there's things that happen when you leave the area, and we have battle maps, and then little keys that tell you what's in each area, including some NPCs, new monsters and stuff, and bad guys, like the white here. Again, we have another location, another battle map. We've got some more bad guys, and we've got the partially underwater mine area, which adds additional challenge due to the maneuverability restrictions. You've got a bad guy called Malduk, the Temple of the Purple Flame, cultists, and a cool looking temple thingy, and a sacrificial pit. It's always fun. You got the Tower of Size. So we've got a little battle map there, including the outside of it, some encounters, and the interior of the temple. We got the Oracle Cave, which has got a big spider on the map there. That seems bad. There's a random events table, different areas you can go, and then the Oracle Cave. Oh, and there's your spider. There you go. And there's webs everywhere. That's fun. There are also eel beasts, whatever that is. The she spider Sakshal. Poor little kid stuck in the web. Oh my god. And there's some orcs and stuff. We got the Troll Spire. Cool looking map with Ambrosius the Toad. We've got some interesting NPCs, more battle maps for additional floors, and there's a crypt with undead guardians, dead-eyed caves, lovely maps and cartography and art just in general in this book. It's really fantastic. Fort Malus, which is Latin for bad, so it's probably bad. It's got a pretty big battle map here, lots of area, and some key locations here, which are described in detail. We've got some NPCs, got some dragon knights, some puzzles and stuff you can find out about. The village of the day before. Interesting. So we got a location here. I'm guessing this is some kind of abandoned village or ghost village. Got a cool looking scholar duck. Always gotta love the ducks. Reminds me of Glorantha and Runequest, which is always positive because I love that game. Got some more NPCs with great portraits here. Don't know what the hell that is, but I don't want to deal with it. Got the Road's Head Inn, and there's some locations in there, including lodgings, and there is the inn itself and surrounding area. There's some kind of cemetery or something. Yep, that looks scary. Don't want that. We've got the Witch Hound. Also looks scary. And the Isle of Mist. It's got corrosive mist. Pretty wide open area, and there's some kind of demon crab and caves to look into. And bad stuff everywhere. There's a demon summoning circle. That's never a good idea. Various broken NPCs. Some kind of fiery dude. It's just lots of bad stuff. There's loads of stuff in this area, so that must be important. But yeah, there you go. So that is the Adventures book, just to give you a little taster for what's to come. Then we have the larger version of the map here. If I can get it out. There we go. So this is just a much larger and very lovely version of the map we saw in the Adventures book, made of the usual fantastic and durable paper that Free League always uses. See, the area is called the Misty Vale. We can see the different areas mentioned, like the outskirts and the Spidery Cave, the Iron Forest, Dragonbane Peaks, all that kind of stuff. So there you go. On the other side, by the way, is a list of Kickstarter backers, which covers the entire thing. So very popular on Kickstarter, I would suppose. Then we have some battle maps, and yeah, we've got a sort of generic sort of interior dungeon battle map. You put some obstacles and stuff in here. Then you have a outdoorsy one with some rocks and grass and bits. Then we have a solo adventure. If you just want to dive in, you don't have a GM available, or you just want to have some fun for a bit. Then you've got some pre-gen characters. Baston Bloodjaw, who's a Wolfkin fighter with veteran ability. You can see how awesome the character sheets look here. So as a fighter, he's got an 18th in strength, and he's got great weapon skills, as you would imagine. He's also got some studded leather armor, a long spear, and a short spear, 17 HP. Then we have Chrisana the Bold, who is a halfling thief, because she can backstab. And of course, she's got her 18 in agility, and she's got the abilities hard to catch from being a halfling and backstabbing from being a thief. She's got lockpicks and rope and torches, and she's really good with knives, and she's really good with sleight of hand and sneaking and spot hidden and evade, as you would expect, and acrobatics and awareness. She's good at a lot of stuff. Got leather armor and small weapons, not a lot of hit points. I got Makander of Half Bay, who is a grumpy knight of the duck variety. So he's got ill-tempered and web feet from being a duck, and guardian from being a knight. So he's got a mixture of strength and con as his top two attributes there. Strength bonus D4, and he's got a movement of 8. He's got his 3 special abilities, and he's got plate armor, which gives a bane on sneaking, evade, and acrobatics. He's got a battle axe, small short sword, and small shield. 16 hit points and 14 willpower, so pretty decent overall. Got Orla Moonsilver, who's an elven ranger, well, hunter, I should say, excuse me. She has twin shot, so you can shoot 2 arrows instead of 1. Rolled hit with a bane, and you roll damage separately. You can do that. You hit the same target or 2 different targets. She has her focus in agility at 17, and she just gets a d6 damage bonus for any agility-based weapons because of that. But she got decent strength too at 13, so she gets a damage bonus for that as well. High movement at 14. She's got inner peace as her elven ability. She's got leather armor, a longbow, and a knife. And not a lot of willpower at all, only 10 and 15 hit points. Then we got Archmaster Audan. That's pretty cool. Look, I just love that picture so much. So he's got the power adaptive from being a human, and as a wizard he can use magic. He's got a 14 in elementalism. He's got the abilities adaptive, and then for spells, he's got Fireball, Pillar, Gust of Wind, Heat, Chill, Puff of Smoke, and Ignite. Those are his magic tricks he can use whenever. No armor, of course, because then he can't cast spells. He's got a staff, which is two-handed, does D8 damage. It's not bad. And it can topple somebody as well. But he's only got 11 hit points, so mages are squishy. You know how it goes. He's got a willpower of 18 and an int of 16, so that helps with the old spell casting. And he's an elementalist. Then we have 5 blank character sheets, which are actually double-sided, so you can make 10 characters if you want to. I love that everything fits on one page. I love that it's really compact, like Call of Cthulhu. The rules are really easy to understand. It just seems like a really, really fun system. The pre-gens look like a lot of fun just to get started. I mean, there's great variety between them. Then you've got your standees. So you've got the different monsters that are outlined in the small bestiary, various types of adventurers. You got some ducks and NPCs. You got the cool mage, my favorite, harpies and orcs and giants, trolls, minotaurs, dragons, and big ugly spiders. And that, my friends, is Dragonbane, which is a really, really exciting purchase for me. Again, it's quite different from the usual for Free League because of the lack of the Year Zero engine and the kind of D20 vibes of the whole thing. But again, it's a complete game in a box. They make allusions to there being expert rules to come at some point, where you have more secondary skills and stuff like that. So I'm pretty hyped for that. I didn't notice that in my first flick through of this, actually. We've got our 2 decks of cards, the initiative cards, treasure, all that cool stuff. Full set of dice, the games catalog, which I'll tuck under here, and that for the standees. And I forgot about this thing. I'll just put that back. There we go. So, yeah, I got this for 20 quid, which is an insane value. And because I got a bundle bonus for buying a bunch of stuff from Free League as well, that wiped out the cost of shipping. So 20 quid for all this and free shipping, it feels like stealing. So this is Eric Post Edit. I had to split the video on Dragonbane and Twilight 2K into 2 videos, of course, because it was huge. I'm a talkative guy, what can I say? But this is just a quick little closer, just to remind you that I hope you enjoyed the video today, and if you did, please click like, subscribe, and click the bell and all that sort of stuff. It really does help me out to stay motivated and keep posting. I'm trying to hit that magical 1,000 subscribers mark, so any help in that vein would be appreciated. And if you did enjoy the video and want to help donate to the channel or support me in some way, just click on the Ko-fi link down below to make a small donation. Be very appreciated. I put a lot of money and effort and my own time into these videos, so any support is always welcome. But thank you all for sticking by me, and I look forward to bringing you part 2 of this video next week. So until then, take care, be well, and see you soon. All right, bye-bye.